Very good afternoon, dear students. Today we are going to start with a new chapter, a fresh chapter that is from statistics and economics. From this part one, this is from part one. In this part one, this is about statistics and economics. We are going to study all the things related to collection of data, presentation, how we can organize the data, how we can present the data, about all those related to data collection, surveys and all. We are going to understand those aspects in this first part, and we are going to start with the introduction of economics in this first chapter. So, what do you mean by economics? Why it is very important to understand economics and how it is going to help us in day-to-day life. So now economics ಏನಾಗಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ? Why we need economics? Because economics helps us in decision making, logical behavior, and economizing the resources it helps us in decision making. We'll discuss about how it's going to help us in decision making and logical behavior, economizing the resources. It helps in all these aspects, and it also helps in resolving problems like poverty. This we have discussed. Then inflation, balance of payment, okay, so this economics helps us in resolving major issues like poverty, inflation, balance of payment, and unemployment. So now, why we need to understand this economics? How it is going to be very helpful in our day-to-day activities, day-to-day life? Because as we know, in all the aspects of our life, we are involved in so many activities. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗೆ ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು activities ಅಲ್ಲಿ involve ಆಗಿರ್ತೀವಿ. Either we are consumers, these are the activities we are involved. Consumption, we can see these activities in our day-to-day life. Consumption, we know. Production, distribution. Okay, so Now, any one activity don't know, we can see all these things: consumption, production, and distribution. These are the economic activities. We are involved. Okay. So, what do you mean by consumption? Is consumption is the things what we consume, and who consumes the wealth or resources, the available required things, the, the person who consumes the consumption part, we call it as the person, we call them as consumer, correct? Suppose, as we know, what we consume either goods or services. Erita viddalli consumption annadu barutte. Now, whatever the things we use we use in terms of goods or services. Suppose now if we go to a grocery shop, whatever we are buying there, that it is for our consumption purpose, correct? So that is consumption of goods. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಗೂಡ್ಸ್ ನ ಬೈ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಟು ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್? ದಟ್ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್, ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಬೈಯರ್ಸ್ ಹೂ ಬೈ ದ ಗೂಡ್ಸ್, ದೆಮ್ ವಿ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ಸ್. ಯಾರು ಬೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ದೇ ಆರ್ ದ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ಸ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಹಿಯರ್ in our example we were discussing about goods. So going to a grocery shop or departmental store or a vegetable market or any shopping center, there if you go there and buy, and those goods we will consume. As we consume the goods, we are known as consumers, and our action, our process, we call it as consumption process. Okay, that is related to goods. And we also consume services. Okay, so what kind of services? Suppose from one place to another place we want to move. For that, the transportation service provided by any transport agent, or we can say, if suppose from one place to another place, if we are going, we will take a auto ride, a rickshaw ride, or a bus service. Okay, this transportation, mobilizing from one place to another place, the service which they provide, transportation service, that comes under service. There we are consuming the services. As a consumer, we are consuming service there. That is one example, transportation. And if we are not keeping well, we go to doctor and we will avail the service from that doctor. He will check up the patient, he will prescribe the medicines according to the health condition. So there he is providing the healthcare services, a doctor, and we are consuming that service. Okay, that is again and we can take so many examples like that related to service. If you go to a movie theater, if you watch the movie, that is also comes under service. And hotels, if you go to hotels, if you book a room, we stay there, that facility also we call it as service. And we saw hospitality industry, we call it as hospitality industry. Hospitality means it's not a hospital, it's a service industry. Those hotels, hospitals, transport, it may be aviation industry, flights, or we can say a bus service or a rickshaw service, Ola, Uber, cab services. All those services we categorize under service. And goods, it is a physical object, whatever, like if you buy any bike, car, or any grocery items or vegetable, or fashion products, cosmetics, whatever the physical in nature, we call them as goods. Okay, either we buy goods or services. The buyers who buy and consume the goods or services, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನಂತೀವಿ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. And that process we call it as consumption. Okay, ಇಲ್ಲಿ goods and services na consume ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ there should be a production of those goods or services. Again, even in services, education industry also comes under services. Hospitality industry, we can name it as hotels, hospitals, education institutions, transport facility providers, all those things comes under service industries. Even business process outsourcing, BPO we call it as. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ವರ್ಕ್ ಇದ್ರೆ, if to manage that work, if it is expensive for them, ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, suppose for example US is there, US people they have a banking related work. ಅವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, to manage that work they need to assign that to the employees there. If they assign that to employees there in America, US, it is going to be a very expensive thing for them. It's very expensive for them to assign that work to the native American citizens. So what they will do, okay, it doesn't demand or require a very skilled population or very skilled person here, not so educated. This is a basic activity, basic work we need to complete. That's why what we will do, ಅದೇನು ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ ಏನು ಕೇಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೇನಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಪೇ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಕೊಬೇಕು. ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಔಟ್ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ವರ್ಕ್. We have India, China, where we will get skilled resources at lesser price. The salary, payment wise, it is comparatively very less there. The resources we have, skilled resources, which is enough to manage this kind of work. Okay, that's why we will assign that here. It is US and we have India or China. What they will do, okay, we have business here, we will outsource this kind of outsourcing work. They are done in those cities because the infrastructure helps them to get this work done. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ರಾಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಆ ಸಿಟೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈ ವರ್ಕ್ ನ ಆ ಸಿಟೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. If we see in our part, we don't see those kind of setups here because we don't have proper infrastructure here to perform these kind of jobs. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆಟ್ರೋ ಸಿಟೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇರ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಈ ವರ್ಕ್ ನ ಅಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Those we call it as MNCs, multinational companies. They have a setup in those cities. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದು ಔಟ್ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ವರ್ಕ್ ನ they will finish it and give it back to those people. That is also a service industry. And in this service industry we have discussed hospitals, hotels, education, entertainment, hospitals, hotels, education, entertainment, business process outsourcing, travel, all those things comes under services. And goods we can take other than service, all those things who are physical in nature, those are goods. And we can see goods and services. You name ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, in general ಆಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನಾವು goods or services ಬೇಕೇ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಂತಾರೆ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ there should be a production process. And who produces these goods and services, we call them as producers. and that process we call it as production. A production process ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ those people we call it as producers. Here we can use other terms here. Whoever producing the goods or services, those producers we can call them as sellers, okay, and the people who are consuming these goods or services we call them buyers. Buyers, they buy the goods and services and they consume those goods and services, they become consumers. And sellers who sell these goods and services, if they are producing those goods and services, they will become the producers. So these activities, when the producer produces the goods and consumer consumes the good, the producer is in here and consumer is somewhere here. Okay, from this production point to reach this consumer, okay, there are so many things. The wholesaler will come, the distributor will come, and retailer will come, reaches to a consumer. Okay, so this chain, it depends on the nature of the product. The distributor, he will take the entire distribution, then it will go to from this place again, it will become like that, from wholesaler to retailer to consumer, like that the chain follows. So that distribution of these goods and services to reach from producers to consumers, we can see this distribution activity. Okay, this process helps us to reach the produced goods to the consumers, final users. So ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಕಾನಮಿಯಲ್ಲಿ we will see all these activities: consumption, who consumes the goods and services, and producers, who produces the goods and services. Through this distribution network, the producers who produce a goods or services, they will make sure that it should reach to the final consumer. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ process ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, we will see in this economics, and we are going to understand how we distribute the produced goods and services to consumer, how we can manage the balance there. So ಈ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಾವು economics ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನೆಲ್ಲ we are going to understand. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ activities ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ನಮಗೆ. Okay, now if you see, when we have a consumer and producer, so to produce goods or services, okay, we need resources. Okay, we have a concept called we need resources to produce. We need resources to produce. Okay, and why we produce? To satisfy the wants and needs of the consumers. Correct? So there is a want, need, or want. There is a want or need from the consumer. So to satisfy that or to fulfill that want or need of a consumer, what producers they will do? They will utilize these resources and produce the final goods. Adinna produce ಮಾಡಿ ಈ consumers ಗೆ who are in need of those products ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ reach ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ we can see two things here. One, we have resources. ಆ resource ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಈ wants or needs of the consumers ನ fulfill ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. Okay, so two things we need to understand here. Whatever the consumers wants or needs are there, they are unlimited. ಇದು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಮುಗಿಯದಂತ ಕಥೆ ಇವರು ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ. The wants are never ending there. It is always unlimited. Their want or need is it's a continuous process. It's always unlimited. There is unlimited, unstoppable, never ending want or from consumer side. But when you see about resources, it's not like that. Resource kade bandre ಇದು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ವೆರಿ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಕಂಪೇರ್ಡ್ ಟು ಅವರ್ ವಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ನೀಡ್ಸ್. ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಏನಂತೀವಿ, ದೇರ್ ಈಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಎ ಸ್ಕೇರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಕೇರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಎಂಟೈರ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ತರ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಸಿ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾವರ್ಟಿ, ಇನ್ಫ್ಲೇಷನ್, ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪೇಮೆಂಟ್, ಅನ್ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಈ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ಈ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ಏನೂ ಇರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ ಇಫ್ ವಿ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದಿಸ್ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್. ನಮ್ಗೆ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ನಮಗೆ ವೆರಿ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಸ್ಕೇರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. We have this scarcity of resources. That is the reason we can see these many problems. Okay, that is why when we have the resources scarcity of resources and unlimited wants, and then resources limited is there, wants unlimited. In this situation, we need to be a better decision making person. Hangagi, while decision making, this economics helps us. Okay, we have limited resources and never ending wants. Hangagi ನಾವು ಹಿಂಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ತಿಳಿದಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ we can't balance these two things. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾವು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, we have to take a better decision here. We have to take a better decision to balance this. ನಮಗೆ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಆ ಇದ್ದಂತ ಕಡಿಮೆ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ತರ we can fulfill this desires of a consumer. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ we have to be a very good decision making person here. That is why this economic helps us in decision making. Okay, it helps us to decide what is the resources we need to use, in how much quantity, and how we can utilize in a better way. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಏನು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, we need to use the resources, limited resources, in a very smart way, and we can reduce the cost of production. The cost of production is the cost ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಖರ್ಚಲ್ಲಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ನ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಫಾರ್ ದಟ್ we need to take a better decision, and we need to behave logically. That's why this economics helps us in logical behavior. We can't just simply behave in the way we want. ನಮ್ಗೆ ತಿಳಿದಂಗೆ ನಾವು ಬಿಹೇವ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. The biggest reason is limited resources. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ if you see ನಮ್ಗೆ if we have, this is not only producer point of view, consumer point of view also it helps. Okay, economics helps consumers point of view also. ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸರ್ಗೆ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ನ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಸ್ಕೇರ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅವನು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಇದ್ದ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ನ ಯಾವ ತರ ಯುಟಿಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಅಂಡ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವ್ಯೂ, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಸ್ಕೇರ್ಸ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅವನ ಹತ್ರ ಏನು ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ he is the buyer ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಈ ಏನೇ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ನ ಬೈ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ you should have that money to buy the products, goods or services. So before buying the goods or services, he has to decide which is better for him within that limited resources. That is the money, the limited money what he has, within that only he has to logically think and decide the better option there. Okay, for example, if we go to vegetable market, there we need vegetable, but this is a very good example where this is a natural tendency of consumer. In market, vegetable market, in today's market, if you see the scarcity, we were talking about scarcity, right? We go to vegetable market, due to this heavy rains, we can see the scarcity of onions. There is no much availability of onions there in the market. So alli onions supply kadme ide. There is a reduction in onion supply. That is why per kg onion it is almost 120 rupees per kg. Per kg it is 120 now onion price. Before 20-30 rupees also we used to get 1 kg onion. This is how the market behaves, and you should be very friendly with the market. You go to market, try to understand the market, then you will understand all these concepts. How consumer behaves, how producer behaves, how this distribution network works. What do you mean by scarcity of resources? What is consumers wants? Okay, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ವೆಜಿಟೇಬಲ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್, ನಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಕ್ಕರೆ ವಿಲ್ ಫೀಲ್ ಸೋ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ. It is never ending. Our want is never ending. ನಮ್ಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. But do we have that capacity? Because we have limited resources. Money we have limited. Okay? ಆ ಇದ್ದಂತ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ವೆಜಿಟೇಬಲ್ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಹೋದಾಗ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಏನೇನ್ ಬೇಕು ಅದನ್ನ ತಗೋಬೇಕು. ದೇ we will behave logically and take a better decision. We have n number of items in vegetable market. So what is required for us? ಇನ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ರೇಟ್ ಇತ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ತರದ ಐಟಮ್ಸ್ ತಗೋತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ರೇಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ having this limited resources we will become very selective. Okay, we will not go and buy each and everything. We will logically behave and decide which is required the most. We will prioritize the things. Priority ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಪಿಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು. So that is why the resources are always scarce and needs are never ending. ನಮಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Scarcity of resources. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ಸ್ಯೂಮರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವ್ಯೂ, ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವ್ಯೂ ಏನಿದೆ, ಅವನಿಗೆ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆನಾ, ಬಟ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಪಟ್ಟೆ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಪಾವರ್ಟಿ, ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಹಂಗರ್. ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಜನ ಹಸಿವಿನಿಂದ ಸಾಯ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಫೀಡ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಫುಡ್ ಬೇಕು. ಫುಡ್ ಡಿಮ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ದೇರ್. ಬಟ್ ಅಷ್ಟನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ? ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸರ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ವ್ಯೂ, producer standpoint I'm talking, if he is ready to produce n number of goods and services, there is a never ending want. He can produce anything so that he can fulfill all this want and needs. But another produce madak agala because of scarcity of resources. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಸ್ಕೇಸಿಟಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಲೇಬರ್ ಸ್ಕೇಸಿಟಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. These are things we face the problems. ಲೇಬರ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಕೇಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆಗಟ್ಟಂಗೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅಗೇನ್ ದ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸರ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಮಾನಿಟರಿ ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್. ಮನಿದು ರಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಇನ್ನು ಲೇಬರ್ ಲಿಮಿಟೇಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಲಿಮಿಟೇಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. when this comes to agriculture, so other industrial product ಬೇಕಾದಾಗ ನಮಗೆ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಸಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ we need limestone ಬೇಕು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲೈಮ್ಸ್ಟೋನ್ ನಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದಷ್ಟು that is a natural resource. do we have unlimited resource there? ನಮಗೆ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಇದ್ದ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು? if a petroleum product ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ there is a huge demand for that petroleum product. There is a want is never ending. But about resource, do we have that much of resource? A limited resource ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, so ಆ limited resource ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇರಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. So that is why as we have the limited resources and unlimited wants, we have to, this economics teach us to behave logically and take a better decision and economize the resources. Whatever and all we have discussed, that is what we call as economizing. Economizing means utilizing the resources in a better way. Utilizing ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ limited resources na now in a better way. If we have 1 2 3 4 5 options, if we have these many options, which is the best option? Which is the best option? Suppose third one is the best option. It means that here we are spending less and productivity is more. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. If that is the best option, we will use that option. Okay, that we call as economizing. Okay, ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಖರ್ಚು ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಬೆಟರ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿನ ತೋರಿಸೋದು, ಬೆಟರ್ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ತೋರಿಸೋದು. ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕನಾಮೈಸಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ. ಆ ತರ ಹೌ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎಕನಾಮೈಸ್, ಹೌ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಇನ್ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕಲಿ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ we can see production ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ we will use raw materials, these resources, we will convert them into output, finished goods ಅಂತ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ there is a cost involved in that, correct? So how we can reduce the cost of production will be there, right? So that cost of production, how we can reduce and how we can produce the best quality goods, that we can say economics. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಖರ್ಚಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ ನ ಯಾವ ತರ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು, that economics teaches us. It helps us to economize the things and logically behave and take a better decision. There is always a decision making process involved in this economics. And ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಈ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು. We have to take a better, okay? The never ending want here is getting a best quality education, a superior education, and limited resources means we have very limited educational institution in this particular area. So having this scarce resources, having this limited educational institution, we have to decide which one is better. We have to decide which one is better, and we can go to that institution and get the admissions there. So again here this economics concept is applied, correct? We can understand in that way as well. And again hospitals, if you are not healthy then we will go to hospitals. Again there it is unlimited, we want to get the best treatment and so much of good hospitality. ಅವ್ರು ನಾವು ಹೋದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಮಗೆ ಹೈಜಿನಿಕ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಆಮೇಲೆ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಆಗಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ಫುಡ್ ಸಿಗಬೇಕು, ವೆಂಟಿಲೇಷನ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಡಿಸೈರ್ಸ್, ಬಟ್ do we have that resource, that facility here? We have only very limited hospitals. In that limited hospital, which is that we will again decide logically, we will think what is our income, what is the expenditure there, how we can balance that. If we go to that hospital, can we go to this hospital, can we get a better treatment there? Like that we will logically think and will take a better decision. In a procurement stage, while buying these goods or services or while producing these goods or services, we are involved in this decision making, logical behavior and economizing. So idelladu nam economics, it helps us to understand all these things, and it also helps in reducing the issues like what we see in our day-to-day life. We have this poverty problem, we have this inflation andre suppose in helidnala per kg onion it was before, okay, if per kg onion if we are paying 120 rupees, 150 rupees, 200 rupees, that is inflation, okay? A commodity price is drastic, cannot opt for those higher prices. The inflation problem is there. Again it helps, the economics helps us to understand why this is happening. Itara ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ? The root cause here is again limited resources. I mean economic, the environmental, natural calamities, environmental hazards are this rain we can see. So many things have impact on this price rise. Okay, and balance of payment, how much we can borrow, how much we can repay back, that how much we can utilize, how we can balance the payments. ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ we have so much of unemployment problem. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ again this is we were discussing about poverty, and when it comes to unemployment, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, population ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ increase ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. We know that when population increases, again this is the main thing we need to understand, resources and want. See, population increase ಆಗಂಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ want need ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ increase ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. But how about resources? Resources are always limited. ಈ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸ್ ಆದಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ವಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇದ್ದಷ್ಟೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತಾಗ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ರಿಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ನೀಡ್ಸ್ ನ ಫುಲ್ಫಿಲ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ದಟ್ ವೇ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಫೇಸ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಅನ್ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್. People they will not get better employed. If they are not employed, there is no income generation. When there is no income generation, they are not in a position to fulfill their wants and needs. So hangagi it will lead to a bad economic condition of a country. In unemployment into poverty into inflation into balance of payment issues ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಕಂಡೀಷನ್ ವರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಂಗಾಗಿ it is a bad indicator. These are the bad indicators of country's economy. So ಈ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ತರ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು? What is the reason for this poverty? Why there is inflation? Why there is unemployment problem? Do we have a better resources? In that unlimited wants and needs, we can use this better resources to fulfill these, to overcome these problems, to resolve these problems. How we can utilize this better? So how we can give a better services to these consumers, and at what, at the best cost of production we can produce the goods. How we can reduce the cost of production there. You know, what is the best way of distributing? The distribution network irukala, aduna again it matters. From this destination to this destination, we want to transfer this. How we can transfer in a better way? Is there any better? Can we come like this, or can we come like this, or can we go here, come here, like this? What is the best way of reaching this? The transportation, the logistics and everything. Adunu elladunu, what is the feasible way? Adelladunu economics ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. So there are so many things which economics helps us to overcome these problems, and it helps us in taking better decision, logically behaving and economizing the things. So ಈ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ economics ನಮಗೆ help ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. That is why it is very important to understand economics. Being a consumer, being a producer, being a user of this distribution network, being a part of this distribution network, we need to understand this economics to be a better consumer or producer or distributor in this network. So that is why it is very important, we can say in that way. So we have so many definitions regarding this economics: wealth related definition, welfare related definition, scarcity related definition. There are three major definitions. One, taking the wealth into consideration, they will define in a certain way, and considering the welfare of a man, a human being. In that standpoint, there is a different definition of this economics, and considering scarcity of resources, there is one more view or standpoint to define this economics. So in three categories, three concepts, based on these concepts, three different concepts, we can define economics. That we will see in the next class. Okay, I'll stop here. Here today we started with the economics, the basic introduction, and in the further classes we are going to understand about collection of data, statistical points, how this statistics help in understanding the economics in a better way. So ಆ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ಸ್ ನ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕೆ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. That we will discuss in the next class. I'll stop here. Thank you for your time.